Ambulance officers have an unenviable job at the best of times, but it's occasions like New Year's Eve which often give them the least reason to celebrate. This year, though, they're hoping 2 months of planning will help them cope with the extra crowds expected to see in the new millennium across the Hunter.
This year, obviously, we have had a larger focus on it, given the crowds that we're expecting in areas.
Up to 90 officers will be on duty across the region, with 6 extra 2-man crews being placed in areas like inner city Newcastle and Nelson Bay. Planning has also involved coordinating with other emergency crews on the night. Ambulance officers say their biggest problem will lie in dealing with the aftermath of drunken chaos, which can range from common assault to alcohol poisoning. But they're hoping party revellers will take heed of this customary warning.
I'd just like to ask those people to go out and have a great time, to enjoy the night, but please, if you're going to drink in moderation and just enjoy the night, because you do want to remember it.
Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
With 60 craft lining up, the jostle for the best start was as competitive as ever. These 2-people crewed craft don't take much breeze to get going, and solid northeasterly winds made sure they zipped along at good pace. While most sported state-of-the-art craft, there was still room for the more traditional wooden hull kind in the fleet. But it didn't matter what you sailed at the buoys, as it turned into every man and woman for themselves. Even when you didn't have to watch out for other crews, it was always a race against time and conditions, with every second crucial. While the wind was good, without a mast you got nowhere fast, and the crew of Crazen could only pack up and prepare for tomorrow. Nothing was getting in the way of U-boat, however. The Sydney crew, skippered by Matthew Middleton, opened a good lead and was never headed. The chase was led by Rod Brewer and Rochelle Stott, but like yesterday's warm-up event, the pair had to settle for second, with Glenn Pritchard's Hedgehog home third. Racing continues all week.
Removed the dry powder and cooled it off with a fine water spray.
The 2 men were travelling north on the highway on dusk last night when the driver lost control of the car in wet conditions while rounding a left-hand bend.
It appears at this stage that the Camaro has lost control and they've collided. The camera has burst into flames.
The two men were incinerated while still in the car. Police are using dental records to formally identify the pair, but it's believed both men are from overseas. A couple and a baby in the station wagon were taken to Murrurundi Hospital and later transferred to Tamworth Base Hospital, with the mother suffering serious injuries. The Singleton family was returning home from holidays. Police are blaming speed and slippery conditions for the crash.
Yeah, we believe it wasn't raining at the time of the accident, although rain had been occurring shortly beforehand. The road was wet.
The latest deaths have prompted a desperate plea from emergency workers for all drivers to ease off the accelerator, especially in the wet.
All we can ask people is to please slow down. The roads are wet. A lot of people are trying to get home. Please slow down and drive to the conditions of the road.
And the same highway also claimed another life last night, this time south of Bendemeer. The driver of this Commodore lost control in the rain and slid into another car. The female driver and the male passenger were trapped, with rescue crews working frantically to cut them from the wreckage. The man later died in hospital, while the woman remains in a stable condition. 5 people from the second car are also treated for serious injuries. Amanda Bolger, NBN News. When the expansion of Kooragang Island's third coal loader is complete, it will be the world's largest coal handling terminal. Port Waratah Coal Services today confirmed plans are on track, awarding a $26 million contract to build a new coal reclaimer on the site. An Austrian heavy machinery company, Tamrock Voiced Alpine, is one of only a handful around the world capable of the job.
What we're saying is, out of the $26 million, $20 million will be spent on supply and fabrication in the Hunter and Sydney areas, and even in the installation we'd employ at least 50 tradespeople.
The new expansion phase will involve the construction of a 1.2 kilometre long stockpile pad, conveyors and another train dumping station. It's part of the $345 million expansion of Port Waratah Coal Services, which will increase Newcastle's port capacity by 12 million tonnes and result in a dramatic improvement in efficiency for the 30 mines that make up the region's coal chain.
We're very happy with the progress. Our project is on time and in budget and progressing very well.
The project is due for completion in September 2001.
Nobby's Beach was awash with sunseekers today, a scene that seems increasingly rare despite the presence of summer. And with few days this December exceeding the monthly average temperature of 26 degrees, Novocastrians are left to ponder why.
I think it's been a shocking summer, really. We've had about 4 genuine beach hot days. That's been changed with more winter weather.
The crowds haven't been with us this year, but I'm sure that'll change now the sun shines out.
Staff at the Weather Bureau at Williamtown have spent more time than most watching the recent grey skies.
A bit cooler probably, mainly due to overcast type weather and higher rainfall in the last few months than what's normal.
Forecasters are at a loss to explain the changes, but say similar out-of-character Decembers were experienced in 1924 and 1962. And what will the weather be doing for the last night of the millennium?
A chance of showers developing tomorrow afternoon and into Saturday as well.
And so if the Bureau's forecast for New Year's Eve is correct, it seems the best accessory on the night will be one of these. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
In broad daylight and right across the road from Beresfield Police Station, the daring hold-up left little money for security guards to collect. The guards were turned away empty-handed, and people needing cash for New Year's were forced to use the ATM. The only bank or building society open in Beresfield, the branch was unusually busy to be targeted for a robbery. 18 people became victims of the hold-up, but many of them saw the solid, dark-skinned 30-year-old man dressed in black who walked into the branch brandishing a pistol.
One gentleman in the bank has told us that he believes that the firearm was authentic, so we are treating the matter very seriously at this stage.
His accomplice, described by witnesses as a woman, was waiting in the car park.
Two fellows from the bank did actually chase him, one of the managers and one of the employees, one of the customers. They chased him into an area at the rear of the building society where it is believed he got into a yellow van.
Police patrols of the area did not locate the getaway van. David McElwain, NBN News.
Usually riding a horse, today jockey Alan Robinson was on a tractor at his Hunter Valley farm. But on the weekend he'll be on Kiwi soil, contesting one of New Zealand's premier races, the Auckland Cup.
I hope I have a bit of luck. It'd be nice to bring back something. It'd be nice to win a Group 1 over there, or any race is nice to win.
Robinson would have to be a good bet. After all, he holds the Australian record for the most number of wins in a season. But racing won't be all the champion jockey and fence builder will be doing in New Zealand. He also has some public speaking engagements.
Yeah, I won't be mentioning no sheep jokes or anything, but I might bat a few times at him.
Assuming he's not thrown out of the country beforehand, Robinson will return home on Monday. Colin Baldwin, NBN News. You'd usually associate MGs with the road, but these ones are more at home on the water. 25 MG14 crews are contesting the national championships on Lake Macquarie, and with only one round left after today, they meant business. Running third in the regatta, Funk Trunk blitzed the field in the first of today's races, skipper Ben Carwadine beating home his father and series leader Alan aboard Fireworks. But at the end of the day, the more mature sailor was still in front on the leaderboard. Plenty of action also in the Flying Ant Skiff Nationals, with Sydney's Robert Bell on target with Misguided Missile to take the second of 7 races. However, West Australian James Hyderson brought Nothing Else Matters home in third place, which was enough to see him lead the regatta. It wraps up on the 6th of January. Meanwhile, the first race of the Cherub Nationals has been run and won by the Mark Matthews skippered Drop Pie Fairy, followed by local boat Up and Coming, then Who Made Who. And Time Rocker holds first place in provisional results for the Northbridge titles, ahead of U-Boat and Peak.
Storm clouds loomed over the foreshore this morning as roadies set up the stage for tonight's outdoor concert at Queen's Wharf. Nearby, pyrotechnicians made last-minute preparations for the fireworks display that will be fired at midnight from a barge positioned off the brewery. Organisers say the 16-minute display will go ahead despite the presence of rain.
All of it's set up, it's covered, it's protected from the rain, so it doesn't bother us at all. Rain, hail or shine, it'll go off.
Meantime, on the other side of the harbour, the Stockton foreshore has started to resemble a tent city. But despite the bad weather, there's still plenty of people, it seems, willing to get in early to get that perfect spot to see in the new millennium. While some battle the elements to secure their shelter, others like Ron and Bev Henderson are doing it in style in their converted bus with all the creature comforts.
We come here last year and it was just in a car and saw a lot of motorhomers here, so we thought we'd bring ours down this year and come over and stay and see the fireworks.
Every piece of ground is fair game, with the Stockton foreshore set to offer a slightly less crowded view of proceedings.
Shells are all set up and we're going to go rescuing our beer ready. So I can't, and here comes my wife now. She's coming over to give us a hand, and the grandkids might be down later on.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's one of the last places on people's minds this time of year, but the Environment Protection Authority is trying to encourage people to think more about it.
Stormwater pollution is probably the biggest and most serious water quality issue facing New South Wales.
The problem to date has been that garden waste and other rubbish is being washed into stormwater drains during periods of rain and finding its way into waterways. Particularly relevant now with Millennium celebrations gearing up.
Because once it hits the stormwater drain, it's on a direct line heading for our beaches, heading for our coast.
So the word of warning from the Environment Protection Authorities is to be more mindful of where you put your waste. The EPA even recommends not taking a dip in local waters for 24 hours after a downpour, be it the beach, harbour or rivers, to avoid swimming in recent waste washout.
It's only common sense, I think, to avoid swimming near those drains for a short period after heavy rain.
Adam Harper, NBN News.
Depending on which way you look at it, the water is great fun.
Humpty Dumpty had a big fall.
Or just too much to handle.
We like them from 6 months on. That's just to get them from familiarisation with the water, just water confidence, learning them to blow bubbles and to kick their legs.
This year, Barbara's helping 25 kids aged between 2 and 7 become familiar with the water. For the older ones, it involves kicking, pushing and gliding. The hardest part?
Putting their eyes in the water.
But for parents, the hardest part can be finding the money for lessons. This program costs $30 for 5 half-hour lessons, but at some schools, it can be $50 for a 10-day schedule.
The swimming classes themselves are free, but it's a matter of cost of the travel to the pool and the entry into the pool is what makes it expensive. And if you've got more than one child, it can make it very expensive.
Leonie believes learning to swim is a child's basic right.
If they have some idea about how to save themselves in any sort of a water situation, it's going to help save their lives.
Catherine Turner, NBN News. Josh Blair stole all the headlines 3 weeks ago on the Gold Coast when he sprinted past his rivals to take out round 4.
It came down to a run finish, and I think I sort of had enough in the tank to get up the beach and win.
Josh says he gets stronger as the day gets longer, and so the survival race format adopted in Coolangatta suits him. It sees 12 competitors eliminated in 2 races before the final and will be used for each Sunday race for the rest of the series. Rounds 5 and 6 are at Elwood Beach this weekend. Its position on a bay means it'll be a mental as well as physical battle.
I'm expecting Kai to be up the front again, and likewise myself, so hopefully sort of tactics will come into play down there, and you'll have to have a smart race because there won't be waves to come into assistance, I think.
This 22-year-old Ironman sees himself as a serious contender for the title, preparing to take each race as it comes.
Each venue is different, each race is different. You can go into a race with a plan and it can be sort of out the window in maybe the first few minutes.
There's still 6 rounds to go in the series, plenty of time to build up some friendly rivalry between himself and Kai Hurst.
Yeah, I think so. He started looking over his shoulder a little more to see where I was, and I think that's healthy, a healthy competition, and it's great to get a win over him.
Catherine Turner, NBN News.
"4" at both venues, and they'll be picked up from the bus shelters. They'll be brought to the ground, dropped off right in front of the stadium, so they've only got a 100-yard walk to get into the ground.
$35 cars, 30 laps, $4,000 at stake. The statistics loomed large for the final of round 13 at Newcastle Speedway, but all that mattered was the placing. Skip Jackson made the winning odds a little better for his opposition when his aerial antics took him out of the running. Gary Brazier was Brooke Tatnall's shadow for 28 laps, but had no intention of finishing the same way. Sydney's Kerry Madsen finished third, ahead of American Donny Schatz. Despite coming second, Tatnall is still the series leader. Next round's action will be at Sydney this Friday and Saturday night. And the competition was no less intense at Lake Macquarie today. Sydney's Speed Demon lived up to its name, winning the Toronto National Flying Ants Skiff Championships. The moderate southerly winds suited the light-weighted boat and its 14-year-old skipper Jeremy Wilmot and 13-year-old partner Dallas Aegis perfectly. Only 0.7 separated them from Toronto boat The Edge before today's 7th heat. First across the line, the winner. Speed Demon came in 5th, beating The Edge in 7th place by 28 seconds.
Celebrate with my brother because he's been coaching us, so he'll take us out somewhere.
And you'll be the ones to beat again next year?
Yep.
Catherine Turner, NBN News.
The weather matched the solemn mood at Sandgate Cemetery as ex-servicemen, their families and civic leaders gathered for a special ceremony. At its centre, this pine sapling, descended from seeds brought home by diggers from Gallipoli and planted today by their descendants. It'll form part of a memorial which will be finished for Anzac Day, honouring local diggers who lost their lives at war and those who returned home.
We're hoping to recognise all ex-servicemen and women from the Newcastle area in the end on this wall.
And a service of a different kind at Newcastle's Bogey Hole today, with the Greek Orthodox Church holding its annual Blessing of the Seas. The centuries-old ceremony marked the baptism of Jesus and offered prayers for the safety of those at sea. Some younger members of the congregation also braved the water to retrieve a cross. The winner received a gold chain and crucifix and a special blessing. Emergency services raced to the private property on Crawley Pass Road, but nothing could be done for the four-wheel drive's male passenger. The 29-year-old died in the crash, while the driver suffered spinal injuries and has been flown to Sydney's Royal North Shore Hospital. It's believed he lost control of the four-wheel drive, which then rolled down an embankment. Meanwhile, police could hardly have guessed what they were in for at around 1:30 this morning when they spotted a stolen Ford F-150 at Wangi. A chase began and the vehicle sideswiped an unmarked police car, injuring the driver. Officers pursued the utility down the F3 to Gosford, where a second police vehicle was hit. The chase then continued up the coast to Newcastle. After 3 hours, 400 kilometres and the involvement of 30 police cars, it all ended at Toronto Country Club. The Ford careered around a fairway before jumping onto the practice green and smashing into a wall. 2 Toronto men have been charged with stealing a car and a number of traffic offences. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
Mission Australia's proclaimed place in Hunter Street has 12 beds available each night for people living with an addiction or without a home. It will close at the end of February and this new plan will kick in.
We as an organisation felt that the proclaimed place wasn't able to meet the long-term needs of the client group, and this model is able to do that.
The discussion paper outlines plans to establish a shop front in the inner city where people can access a range of services including special public housing.
Some may need rehab, some may need detoxification, others may need counselling, others may need referral to other services, and primarily they need housing and accommodation.
The Mission says the $370,000 it receives each year from the state government to provide the service will be better spent under the new scheme. A public meeting will be held on January 24 at City Hall from 2 o'clock to discuss the plan. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
As a business, Newcastle Airport is taking off. So much so, the airport is undergoing a $4.5 million upgrade. And to help pay for the new works, car parking fees are being introduced.
It really comes back to user pay, that's right, rather than the ratepayers funding a facility that's used by others.
Airport users will be forced to pay $1 an hour to park in the open car park, or $10 a day. $15 a day will be charged for covered parking. Port Stephens Council's GM Peter Gesling says the cost is quite reasonable compared to other airports.
Well below other airports. I mean, Sydney Airport, you're talking in the order of $25 a day in the general car parking.
But it seems not everyone thinks the car parking fees are a good idea.
I don't think it's fair. It's a small airport. I don't think it's worthwhile for us.
Sometimes, people may just be here to pick their family up and have to wait, long times because of delays in air flights. No, not fair at all.
The fees will come into force from February 21. Meanwhile, a 110-room hotel is also in the pipeline to be built at the airport. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News. It didn't take much to convince the State Tourism Minister Sandra Norrie of Port Stephens' worth today. Beautiful blue skies and crystal clear waters, enough to prompt the Minister to give the region her seal of approval.
It's a beautiful place. It's got tremendous number of activities, diverse activities. It's a great place for families and it's so close to Sydney.
She's urging people to give the often overcrowded Gold Coast a pass this summer and instead come to Port Stephens.
New South Wales people should holiday in New South Wales if they can.
And according to the Minister, things can only get better for the region, especially when the Olympics come to Sydney, a mere 2 hours down the road.
The real opportunities are going to come post-Olympics, and that's been the experience of other cities like Barcelona, that their tourism visitation increases post-Olympics.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.